Okay, let's make sure we got everything right. That's off, that's off, that's off, that's on, and the stream seems to be live. Okay, I think that's about as good as I'm gonna get. Let's do this then. Hello, Shadowcat back with more Magic the Gathering. Yes, it's that time again. I'm looking forward to this. That's a lie. I'm not looking forward to this. I have no idea what I'm doing. Oh my goodness, it has been so hectic around here. Like I had some time off there, and anyone who's following my channel probably noticed that because like content began to slow down over the last month and then practically stopped. And that's because there's just been a lot going on in real life. There was a wedding, there was family traveling, there was people coming in that we hadn't seen in a long time, and I didn't get any work done while that was all happening. And school has also let out, which means that there's now kids around and they need to be like watched and fed and I don't know, exhausting things like that. And so trying to get back into things, it's not easy, but I'm making the effort. And so getting back into this today, I don't know what we're doing. I didn't know we were doing last time either. I have never been this disorganized in one of my modules before. So last week we for lack of anything really better to do, we went back to the landscape module and looked at how either adding or removing mana to the lands would change them, with really interesting results. We came to the conclusion that you can add and remove mana and actually change the landscape of an area, because it's the mana that makes the land, not necessarily the land that makes the mana. Now, that, of course, would be like a really expansive terraforming project that you wouldn't see the results of in your lifetime, but that could be done over, you know, thousands to millions of years. We also, we looked at what each of the colors does and how adding or removing mana would do or would affect that, because changing the actual landscape would take a really long time. But changing people and society, that's a lot faster. So we looked at that, and we're not quite done with that yet. I did sit down and do a little work, but I mean, why should I do this stuff between episodes when we can sit down and do it together, right? So I want to finish that up real quick, and then I think we're going to get to work on artifacts, because it's something that I need to go through, and I've been kind of putting it off for a while. And I don't know, we're going to look at it. We're going to look at it. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in the tools that we need. Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and bring in the chat. So, take a look at the chat. I see that Blizzard Star is in here. Hello, Blizz. It's good to see you. I see that JP is also in this morning. Hello, JP. It's good to see you as well. It's always good to see you too. And now I'll go ahead and grab my stuff. Here's our browser and our spreadsheet. And like I said, I had done a little bit of work on this between last week and this week. And JP says, plug the Discord. I need to get him as like a media manager or something. Okay, he's right. I need to plug everything. So, if you're enjoying what you see so far, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into either Pathfinder or Magic the Gathering, share this video with them. They should enjoy it. Otherwise, if you just like what we're doing here, you want to be part of this more, leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below. But if you're going to go through all the trouble to leave a comment anyway, go down into those links and find yourself a link to the Discord. I have a Discord. It's an open Discord for now until somebody causes trouble. So you can join the Discord whenever you want, and if you want to play with us, you need to join the Discord. You need to get on there, go to the Behind the Screen channel, and let me know what game you want to play and what your availability is. Right now, we have a Star Trek game currently in progress, and yes, you can join. I mean, I'm really good at this kind of thing, so if you join, and if you want to join the Star Trek game, I can work you in. I can help you build a character with a personality matrix. I can build a character with a backstory. I can help you with all those things. And then, when it comes time, I can find a way to integrate your character into the story just seamlessly. It's really good. But we also have a Wheel of Time module. We have a Final Fantasy module. We have a Warhammer 40,000 module. And someday, this one will be done too. So, if you want to play any of those, again, the Discord, behind the screens, what game do you want to play and what's your availability? So, do that. And in the meantime, we'll get back to this. Okay, so like I said, I sat down and I started working on this a little bit. And I just looked at it kind of in a logical way. What is each of these things and what benefits it or doesn't benefit it? And so this is what I came up with. When it comes to corruption, I pretty much just distinguish between black and white. Why? Because black is just all about its own self-interest and doesn't really care. Also, that whole inhibitedness or uninhibitedness thing, they're not going to think so much before they do something. So, crime, naturally. And obviously, white is the color of law. Black and white are opposed, so that's what we did. Crime. Well, corruption and crime, kind of the same thing, so black and white went that way. However, red and blue I threw in there just because red is going to be really impulsive, and they're not going to care so much about laws. They're going to do what they feel, not what they think. Blue could have the argument that they also don't care about laws, but it's not quite the same. Blue would absolutely love structure. Blue loves structure. It's good. And so I kind of kept him in that range. For economy, it all comes down to essentially what can you buy, what can you trade, do they like to trade, things like that. And so who's going to like to trade? Well, organized, structured societies. So again, white and blue. Who is not a structured, organized society? Red and green. Pretty simple. What about black? Well, I mean, black is just kind of in the middle there. They could be a structured society. They could be a complete anarchistic society. I can't make a decision on them. Law is the opposite of crime, so just kind of went that way. When it comes to blue, though, I have red down here as a negative for law, but I didn't put blue in opposition. The reason being, like I said, blue likes structure, but not necessarily laws. They don't necessarily want to hurt people, in general. However, laws are those pesky things that get in the way of doing things like research. And so blue might not be quite as accommodating. When it comes to lore, lore is going to be how willing are people to talk to you, how willing is or how readily available is information. We're talking about smart libraries, smart scholars, and the willingness to share the information. Well, blue loves information. Red would rather beat you with the book usually. White loves structures and libraries. Black is more inclined to keep all that stuff to themselves than to share it with anyone else. And so that's how that shook out. And society was the first one that I had that did all 5 colors. Green, interestingly enough, didn't really come up much in all of these. Although perhaps I should maybe have adjusted that, I don't know. But anyway, society, black versus white. Again, white is all about building society, and black is all about individualism. So, kind of like the opposite of society. Not exactly the opposite of society. Either way, though, black, they're the opposite. Red, not going to be good. Actually, I think I got these backwards. Because right now I've got it so it says it's a +2 for black and red. That should be the opposite. Well, I can fix that actually. There we go. And then I can copy those there. And copy those there. Yeah, that should be the other way around. So yeah, society. White, blue, green. Why? Well, I guess we've been saying the entire time. White is all about building up a structural civilization. Obviously, they're going to have high society. Blue? Well, blue wants to have infrastructure. I mean, blue doesn't necessarily care that much about other people, but it does care about building a system in which it can work. That means that sometimes you're going to need people. And then green, well, green seems a little bit weird there, but you also have to remember that green, when we're talking about a city, it's going to be something built on natural law, but everything is going to be interconnected. Everyone is going to be interreliant on each other. So it works. However, black and red, very independent. They don't necessarily care about who you are. It's about what can you do for me. In other words, get out of my way. And so there we go. So if I was going to assemble these into a block, I think that it would be something akin to... let's do it like this, okay? We're going to come up here and I'm going to say corruption, crime, economy, law, lore, and society. We'll go ahead and merge these. So I can just put up here white. And then I just need to copy this a few times. So put one there, put one there, put one there, put one there. And this is going to be blue. This one will be black. This one will be red. And last but not least, this one will be green. All right. So using what we've got so far, for white, corruption be a -2. Crime will also be a -2. Economy will be a +2. You took away my plus. This is not formatted for text yet. Hold on, I can fix that. As soon as I find the button, I'm still getting used to LibreOffice. Okay, let's try that again. +2. There we go. Law for white, obviously it's going to be a +2. For lore, that's a +2, and society is a +2. And so that's just super easy. And we look at blue. Blue does not actually get a corruption modifier. For crime, it's going to be a -2. For economy, a +2. For law, they don't actually get a modifier. Lore, however, is a +2. And society is a +2. Black. So for black, corruption is going to be a +2. Crime will be a +2. Economy. They don't actually have a value for economy because black will do business with pretty much anyone, but they're not exactly putting themselves out there either. And let's face it, nobody really wants to do business with them to begin with. So their economy is neutral. They'll do it, but nobody really wants to do it with them. As far as law goes, black is not really a fan of laws. As far as lore goes, they're not a fan of sharing information, and as far as society goes, they're not exactly a huge fan of being social either. As far as red goes, red doesn't really have a corruption problem. Because if you tried to, say, bribe red, well, red doesn't care. Red's gonna do what red's gonna do, regardless of how much you pay them. As far as crime goes, well, it's actually going to be a +2 there. As far as economy goes, red does not exactly have the best track record on economy, so we already covered that. Laws, they don't like laws. Lore, again, they don't really like lore. And then society, they're not exactly the best. And actually, that's kind of a hard one. See, here's the weird thing. When we talk about red, we talk about freedom, emotion, action, impulse, things like that. When you think about red, don't think about just the fire and destruction, because that's only in the game. Every single one who is aligned, or every single person who is aligned with red is not throwing fireballs and shooting lightning all the time. If you wanted to picture a red society, like a town that is just steeped in red mana, picture New Orleans. And it's Mardi Gras every single day. Now, some people are going to say, oh my god, Mardi Gras every single day? That sounds amazing! And other people are going to say, Mardi Gras every day? Kill me! Because, yes, every day is a party in a red city, with all the good and bad things that come with it. Are they welcoming to people? Yes, they are very welcoming to people. Is it also going to be, like, heavily crime-ridden? Probably. It's going to be in a weird place. Actually, I think I'm not actually going to penalize them for this one. I think I may take that off. The only ones who are really going to be, like, anti-society are going to be black, and that's simply because of their selfishness and self-interest. Red doesn't necessarily get a penalty or a bonus for society. Because, kind of like I said when it came to black and economy, it's not that they won't, it's just that nobody wants to do it with them. It's the same thing for red in society. So I'll make that adjustment now. As far as green goes, green doesn't really have a corruption problem, because green is not really corruptible. They're not really corrupted by material things in general. It's like, yes, you can give me a ton of money, but a ton of money does not make the grass grow. As far as crime goes, they also don't really get a bonus there. Is there crime? Well, no. Is there law? Also kind of no. The only law and crime is natural law. And natural crime? Either way, somebody's getting eaten. And no one's going to jail. Economy? Green is very much self-interested. They want to be left alone. It's not that they can't do business, it's that they don't want to with you. Kind of the opposite of the black problem, where nobody wants to do business with them. But in this case, because it's them not wanting to do business with people outside, they get the -2 modifier. As far as law goes, they have natural law, I guess. They don't get a bonus for it. Lore. How much do they know, and are they willing to share it? Well, the answer to that is, what do they know? And probably not too much. Again, these are not the people that are going to be your researchers. They know what works, and they live by what works, and so they don't need it. And as far as society goes, they are very social amongst themselves. Very high society amongst themselves. But they still get a +2 for that. Alright. So there we go then. that'll take care of all of our civilization modifiers. Green is looking a little bit skimpy, but that's because green is just, they are not interested in the things that most people are. And of course, you know, we can always adjust this as needed. So if anyone has any suggestions, I'm open. But okay, now that that's done, I think I'm ready to get started on artifacts because I've been putting this off for too long and I need to get it done. So we're going to go ahead and insert a sheet here after the current. We're going to call this one Artifacts. And we're going to start over here. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to reformat this to being text-based. There we go. Also, let's go ahead and make everything readable. And we'll take a look at artifacts. So coming back to the browser, we'll come back to the wiki and take a look. So artifacts. We'll come back here first and just take a look at the general overarching page. Artifacts are permanents that represent magical items, animated constructs, or pieces of equipment, or other objects and devices. Broader than the normal definition, the card type is used to represent physical, tangible objects that can be either natural or man-made. I don't want to go into the history so much, but artifacts are basically anything that's not some kind of creature or magical effect. Okay, everything else is going to be an artifact, essentially. And it's a rather broad category, because when we talk about artifacts, there are some artifacts that are literally just an artifact. And one of the things that springs to my mind is things like mana rocks. It's just an object, it's an artifact, you can hold it, tap it, whatever, it's just a thing. And if you were to drop it, I mean, there you go. So, taking a look at some of these we're going to use, some of them we're not going to use. So, this is a list of all the artifact types. And of course, I mean, there is, as I just said, an artifact. Just a plain old artifact. And I think that if I come here to the advanced search, I can even pull one of those up. So, card name. What's something... I know. How about this? Just search for signets. Are you going to bring up a list here? There we go. Perfect. Signets. As you can see, every single one of these is just an artifact. Nothing else special about it. And all of these signets are actually tied to the different guilds that we were just looking at a couple of weeks ago, which actually makes them really kind of special. There's an Arcane Signet, but, I mean, whatever. But the Azorius Signet, Boros Signet, Dimir Signet, Golgari Signet, Gruul, Izzet, Orzhov, Rakdos, Selesnya, and Simic. I'd love to have a collection of all of those. And I mean, it's not like they're even really expensive or hard to find. It's just, it'd be cool to have a collection of them. So again, these are just artifacts, and these don't have any kind of subtype. The ones that we'll be looking at on the wiki will have subtypes. And those subtypes are here. Now, what are we going to use? What are we not going to use? I suppose we should actually probably figure that out now. For example, the attraction one. The variant is an acorn, which means that this is part of the Unfinity set. We're not using it. Blood, however, is predefined. So introducing the Crimson Vow. Predefined as a token with 1 tap, discard a card. So wait, is it just a token? Okay, yeah, it's just a token. We don't need to use this one. At least I don't think we do. have a hard time imagining a time we would need to. Well, actually, hold on a second. So, there are 38 blood creation cards. Which means that I actually might... Well, okay. We're not even sure what it's going to do yet, so maybe not. It does just say, pay 1, tap it, discard a card, sacrifice this artifact, draw a card. Again, since we skipped the basic commands there, I don't necessarily know what discarding a card is going to do. This could be a useless object anyway. Once we define what discard and draw means, I think that'll make more sense. Should have done that. Anyway, though, Bobblehead is from Universes Beyond, which means that we don't need that. Clues. Introduced in the Shadows over Innistrad, predefined as a token with pay 2, sacrifice this artifact, draw a card. Yeah, we saw these before. Again, it's draw a card. I don't know what it's going to do. Contraption is also from the Unfinity set, so we can skip that. Equipment, though. This was introduced in Mirrodin, and this was like when I first got started in Magic the Gathering. I love equipment. I really do. Equipment is great for a variety of reasons. Equipment we're going to have to do. So, I'm going to put up here Blood Clue. And then equipment. Next is going to be food. So this was brought in the Throne of Eldraine. It is a token with pay 2, tap, sacrifice the artifact, and gain 3 life. So that's cool. Now, interestingly, I think I know what we'll do with this one already. So food is going to go on there. But when we were working with other things like sorceries and stuff, we established that when calculating how much damage something is going to do, it was going to be the mana cost as the number of dice, and the damage that it dealt as the size of the dice. So a small spell like Shock, which does 2 damage and costs 1 to play, would do 1d2 damage. Whereas a larger spell like, say, Searing Wind, which costs 9 to play and does 10 damage, would do 9d10 damage. I think. Let me make sure. Yes, Searing Wind costs 9 to play and deals 10 damage. And PC Unicorn is in the chat. Hello, PC Unicorn. Good to see you here. Okay, so anyway, like I said, Shock is just going to do 1d2 damage. Searing Wind would do 9d10 damage. So when we look at what a food token would do, tokens don't have a mana cost, but it does say it costs you 2 to tap and sacrifice it. So we'll use that as our mana cost to play, and it says you gain 3 life. So if we follow the same rules that we use for like the instants and sorceries, the food token would heal 2d3 HP. So a minimum of 2 HP, maximum of 6. Which is not great, but it's also not terrible. And it actually kind of fits with what we're doing. Again, if all of these things are just echoes of what we've been summoning, it's not even real food. Okay, you tapped a creature or played a spell or whatever, and as a side effect it conjured food. But that food is still just made out of mana. So, of course it's going to be a little bit lesser than like a proper healing spell. And I think that 2d3 hit points is actually really good in that case. Fortifications is from Universes Beyond. We're not doing that, I don't think. Well, maybe. It says it was introduced in Future Sight. They act like equipment, except that fortifications attach to lands instead, using their Fortify ability. Oh, right. didn't we cover this in our activated abilities? Spells. No, we did not. Okay. Also, the search function in LibreOffice is kind of weird. But okay, that's fine. Since it does attach to lands, we'll go with we'll put fortification on here. Now, interestingly, and I spelled that wrong. Fortification. There we go. In the game, if you play a fortification, and let's see if we can look some of these up. I may need to use the advanced search for this one because this would going to be a subtype. So card type, card subtype. Here we go. Fortification. I want to take a look. Okay. Now, one of these it says was what was the franchise decks, and one of them is not. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that you're the one that's not. Yeah, this is the one from Future Sight, the Darksteel Garrison. So it says that the fortified land is indestructible. Whenever it becomes tapped, target creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Now, the interesting thing about this is that this is making the land indestructible, and sure, I guess. We're talking about land, we're talking about ley lines too. And so I guess you could use this to protect a land, which would make it a very, very special kind of fortification. But what if we could actually make this into an actual fortification? As in, you conjure an actual fort. I think that could be really cool. And so there's only the one printing of it, so I mean that's the only card we're gonna get. It costs 2. And so I don't know how we're going to work that in. I don't know. We'll work on it more when we get to it. There's some stuff to do there. All right. So next is gonna be gold. First used by Born of the Gods, and later in Theros Beyond Death. It is a token that says sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. I think that actually got redefined later. Isn't that a treasure token? Yes, treasure tokens was introduced in Ixalan. They're also tap, sacrifice this artifact, and add 1 mana of any color. So essentially the same thing. Because if you're tapping the artifact to sacrifice itself, just kind of seems like extra steps. And as far as I know, with a treasure token, you can still tap it on your opponent's turn, just in case you needed the mana. So yeah, I don't actually know what the difference is. I'm gonna put gold and treasure together because we need them. Gold and treasure. Okay, next, hats. Introduced in Preston's stage during the 2024 Las Vegas Plane Chase Unknown event. It's a token with a pay 1 tap, sacrifice the artifact, create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. This seems pointless. However, I'm inclined to allow it just for the bunnies. It's only on 1 card. It is on a test card, though. I think I'll actually skip it. It's on a test card. I don't need to allow that. It's not technically part of any official release. Okay, so skipping that. Incubator. So it is a double-faced artifact token introduced in March of the Machines, predefined as a token with pay 2 to transform this artifact on their front face, and it becomes a 0/0 Phyrexian artifact creature on the back. They are created exclusively with the Incubate mechanic, which we have Incubate, I believe. So I think we need those. Now, mind you, when we talked about time period, we established that this is we're going to be playing this after the Phyrexian invasions, after the fall of Phyrexia. And so Phyrexians are not really going to be a thing, but they could be. We need to be ready just in case. Junk, introduced in Fallout. Yeah, not doing the Universes Beyond stuff. Keys was also a test card, so I think that we can skip that one. Maps, introduced in the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, predefined as a token with pay 1, tap, sacrifice. Target creature you control explores. Activate this only as a sorcery. I mean, maybe. Maybe. Maps. Power Stone, part of Dominaria United. It is a token with tap to add mana. This mana cannot be spent to cast a non-artifact spell. I mean, sure. Scrap. It was also a test card. Scythe was a test card. We're going to skip those. Treasure, we put up with gold. And vehicles. Very important. We've already covered the crew ability, and that's going to be for the vehicles. So here's the list of things that we need to go through and create. Some of this is going to be easier than others. And some of it we're going to have to stretch narratives a little bit if we're going to make it work, I think. For example, blood. The only thing that blood does is just draw a card. And I'm gonna go ahead and insert a sheet here, because I'm gonna have to write some of this stuff down. This is going to be just keywords, I guess, because we're gonna need to start defining these things. So, for example, when we come back here to blood, okay, we'll do this. Let's do this. So a blood artifact has only a single purpose. It's pay 1, tap it, discard a card, and then sacrifice an artifact. Okay. We need to establish what does it mean to discard and what does it mean to draw. So, discard. Now, let's think about this for a minute. I've been avoiding this as long as I possibly could, but I can't avoid it anymore. When we're playing Magic the Gathering, we have a hand of cards. Okay? We have a hand of cards. And because of that, we can discard a card and we can draw a card because we have a massive pool of random cards that we're drawing from. So how do we make this work? I think I have an idea. I hate this idea. I really do. But I think I have an idea. Oh, I hate that I had this idea. No, that's a bad one. Okay. For the longest time, I have been playing these planeswalkers as if they were sorcerers. I think I may have to turn them into wizards. Oh, I don't want to do this. Okay, come with me on this little hypothetical. We already know And I'll come back here to this one so we can review this. PC Unicorn says, discard, temporarily forget a known spell, draw, gain a temporary new spell. No. And the reason why I say no to that is because, very specifically, you can't learn a spell that you didn't already have. That would be like putting a new card into your deck that you didn't have before. Okay, remember that your deck represents your experience, your memory, all the things that you've seen or encountered or learned. You can't just spontaneously learn something else. But what if we took a page, literally, out of the wizard's spellbook? See, with sorcerers do not learn nearly as many spells, and I'm gonna go back and cover this in depth here. Let's come back here and what is this? Hide the sidebar. I don't need a sidebar. Okay. Sorcerers. Sorcerers are very interesting in that they do not need to prepare their spells every single day. They know what they know, and they can cast what they know, as many times per day as they can cast them. That's why, if you look at the sorcerer grid, the first thing you see here is spells per day. And why is that? Because this is what you're allowed to cast. But this doesn't paint the entire picture. Like at the first level, you can only cast 3 first level spells per day. You can cast as many cantrips as you want, but you can only cast 3 level 1 spells per day. What spells are they, though? Well, that's when we come down here to sorcerer spells known. See, wizards begin play knowing every single cantrip in their book. And they all fit on one page, which is nice. Because yes, spellbooks do have pages. If you are a high-level wizard, you will have multiple spellbooks. And each one weighs like 3 pounds, so it adds up. If you're a sorcerer, though, you only get to begin play knowing 4 cantrips. And I'm going to come over here and pull up the wizards so we can do like a direct side-by-side comparison. The wizard, when we look at spells per day, they only get to cast 3 cantrips, not unlimited cantrips. Well, actually, that's not true. They only get to prepare 3 cantrips, but they can cast those 3 cantrips as many times as they want. And they only get 1 first level spell per day. So already, when we compare with the sorcerer gets 3 level 1 spells per day, but they only get to learn 2 in general. And the sorcerer gets to only learn 4 cantrips, but they can cast those cantrips as many times per day as they want. The wizard knows all of them, but can only cast 3 specific cantrips a day. You see how 1 has flexibility, and then 1 has expanse, I guess. If you are a wizard, when you learn spells, it says that, where is it? Starting spells. See your spellbook below. A wizard begins play with a spellbook containing all level 0 spells, which are your cantrips, plus 3 level 1 spells of their choice, plus an additional first level spell equal to their intelligence modifier. Which, if you're a wizard, is probably going to be pretty high, which means that you could start with up to 7 level 1 spells. And then at every level you gain 2 new spells of any level that you can cast. When we look at the sorcerer, they get 2 first level spells. And when it comes to learning spells, they must have a charisma score of at least that, yes. The sorcerer's selection of spells is extremely limited. They begin play knowing 4 0-level spells and 2 first-level spells. Period. At each new level, they gain 1 or more new spells, as indicated on the spells known. Unlike spells per day, the number of spells known is not affected by their charisma score. wizards do get to add their intelligence modifier. So, I mean, at first level, they get 2 level 1 spells, so probably Magic Missile and, I don't know, Mage Armor. And at level 2, guess what? It's still going to be those same 2, because they're just going to get another cantrip. Let's see. And PC Unicorn says maybe that's why they call it Wizards of the Coast. I don't get it, because the Wizards of the Coast people are dumb. Wizards are supposed to be smart. Anyway, I have been playing our Planeswalkers a lot like Sorcerers or Summoners, where they know what they know and they can just cast what they know. But perhaps I need to be treating them more like wizards. Specifically like wizards with their cantrips, maybe, but I'm not sure. So, the way that the Planeswalkers are currently working, they're allowed to cast as many spells as they want per turn, so long as the mana will support it, and they can only cast a certain number of spells per day. But what if, and just stick with me here, what if we made our Planeswalkers prepare their spells ahead of time? As a kind of fusion between between the wizard and the sorcerer. So you have access to all of the spells that you know, and you can cast them, but you have to pick out how many of each spell you want, kind of like filling your deck with cards. So let's say that we'll just take a red Planeswalker here at level 1. Okay, you have a max mana cost of 1. Spells per day is 3, but spells known is 2. And so as a red Planeswalker, you're going to get Shock. Actually, no, not Shock. You get Lightning Bolt and Raging Goblin. Both of those cost 1. And then I say, okay, now how many of each do you want? And you say, well, I'm going to take 2 Lightning Bolts and 1 Raging Goblin. Okay, that's cool. So that's what you have to play with that day. Now, where does this come in? If we look at the discard, discarding is very simple, because discarding is going to do the same thing in Pathfinder as it will in the game. You're going to lose one of your cards, and one of your cards is going to be one of your spells per day. So discard is going to be lose 1 random spell, or 1 random prepared spell. Okay, there we go. But then we get to the draw part. What happens if you get to draw a card? That should be the opposite. If discarding you lose 1, draw should be add a prepared spell. Now, this could be very dangerous, but I mean, we'll see. Add a prepared spell. It does not have to be the same as your previously prepared spells. And I think this is where I need to be very careful. It does not add to your spells per day. Now, I need to do that because if it did add to your spells per day, it would allow the Planeswalker to essentially have infinite spells. So you have one card that allows you to draw a card. Okay? Whatever that happens to be. And then you have literally anything else. It would mean that your entire day could just be, I draw and cast, I draw and cast, I draw and cast. And you could do that ad infinitum. By not adding it to the spells per day, what we're essentially going to turn a draw card into is an option card. You're going to have your prepared spells per day, but maybe you really, really need this other spell that you know right now. And so if you have a draw spell prepared, it will allow you to essentially burn 2 spells per day to play something that you had not prepared. Which I think is really good. How badly do you need this other spell right now? Or, actually, hold on a second. Oh no, wait, I don't think I want to do that. Okay, hold on. My brain is going faster than my mouth is. So I was thinking that what if instead we simply made it so that the draw card became whatever spell you wanted it to be. That would be a really clever way to do it. But if I did that, then what is to stop everyone from simply making an entire, or just picking nothing but draw spells at the beginning of their day? Because why prepare actual spells when you can just get the draw cards and have each one of them turn into whatever it is that you need them to turn into? No, that wouldn't work. That would just eliminate the entire purpose of preparing your deck, your spells, your hand, everything. It'd be pointless. So no, the draw card is a spell. When you cast it, that spell per day is gone, but you will get another prepared spell that you already know. I should probably add here that it must be a spell you already know. It does not have to be the same as your previously prepared spells. It does not add to your spells per day. There we go. Okay, so then when we get back here to the blood, is there anything that I actually need to do here? So the blood card, or the blood artifact, just says, tap 1, or pay 1, tap, discard a card, sacrifice this card, and then draw a card. So let's just follow through the chain of events here. Okay, let's follow, as they say in Magic the Gathering, the stack. Pay 1, okay? And it's 1 colorless, so you can do this pretty much anywhere. As long as you are holding blood, you can do this. And then tap. Tapping is something that we tapping is something we haven't covered yet. Now, tapping a creature we already established is going to daze it. Tapping an artifact, though, I don't know. And PC Unicorn says, I'm not sure that will work because, as I said, it can be easily exploited. I think I've gotten around the exploitation part with the way that it's going right now. So let's say that, I don't know off the top of my head a cheap blue card, but let's say that let's go ahead and make ourselves a level 2 planeswalker. Okay, so we're gonna do this. We're gonna say level 2 planeswalker. Okay, and as such, a level 2 planeswalker has spells per day 6 and spells known 4. Okay? So that's how that's going to work out. Now, what spells are we going to give our blue planeswalker here? we're going to give them a creature and a counter because they're blue. A creature, a counter, and enchantment, and a draw. Okay? I don't know what these cards are. These are just very generic versions. That's what we got. Okay, and we can have 4 per day. So here's what we're going to do. At the beginning of the day, let's see. Prepared spells or your hand. Okay. At the beginning of the day, we're going to pick our cards, and we're going to say that I've got we've got creature cards, and we've got 2 of those. An enchantment, 1 of those, and then we'll take a draw card. 1. Okay? So, we have creatures that we can summon, so if we get into combat, I can easily pop up a couple of wizards, and there we go. I have 1 enchantment card, which will make my wizards better, presumably. I don't know for certain. And then I have this 1 draw card that's wild, and again, I have 4 per day. Let's see, PC Lord says, alternate idea. Draw creates a random temporary spell as an inspiration, like Discord's card ability. I don't know, maybe I'd have to look at it. Also, I could nerf it by creating my own as a DM draw deck, make it like the deck of many things, but less evil. Why would I ever make the deck of many things less evil? I'm offended that you would even suggest a thing like that. No, we like it evil. But no, just stick with me here. Okay, so let's suggest that on turn 1, okay? Turn 1. And I'm going to say... well, we're just going to keep track. I'm going to say, how many spells per day do we have? We have 4 spells per day because we haven't cast anything yet. Turn 1. We're going to go ahead and cast a creature. Okay? So we cast a creature, and we now have a creature out. And then, because, you know, we've been apprehended by brigands in the road. They came out of the woods, and they said, your money or your life. You know, we're using all the stereotypes today. So they pop out of the sides, they say, your money or your life, and you, as a planeswalker, say, that's okay. I'm going to tap the blue mana around here, and I'm going to summon a creature. And it's like, great, now I have a creature. Go fight for me. Protect your planeswalker. And then, on the other side, one of them just says, okay, you want to play that way? And so they gather red mana, and they cast Lightning Bolt on your creature and kill your creature. Oh no! We're up against another planeswalker here. And so, I'm just going to put a -1 there because that's -1 spells per day. Turn 2. Okay. I have a problem here because there's a planeswalker over there. I have this other creature, but if I summon my other creature, they're just going to kill it. So, what I'm going to do here is for turn 2, I'm going to use my draw card. This is going to be another -1. However, it will allow me to swap out, or not to swap out anything, but it will allow me to draw another card. So I will get a counter card. And now I've got this. Now, keep in mind that we only have 3 spells per day left here. And that we just got. So, next turn, the other planeswalker does something, probably throws another lightning bolt, whatever. Turn 3. I only have 2 spells per day left. And now, keep in mind that since I drew that card, I still have, because we lost 1 creature, I still have creature, 1, and enchantment, 1, but now I also have a counter, 1. I have 3 spells now, but only 2 spells per day left. And so now I don't have enough to necessarily cast everything that I have prepared in my hand. I just don't have it in me. And so maybe on the next turn I use that counter. And so that's another -1 per day. And on turn 4, I only have 1 spell left. I countered their spell, but now I just have a creature and enchantment. The enchantment's not going to do any good without creatures. So I'll play another creature. That's another -1. And I'm off the page. Here we go. Let me bring that back up. And now, at turn 5, I have no spells left for the day. But I still have that 1 enchantment left over that I prepared. I think this is going to work. It's going to stay balanced. It's going to make it so that those draw cards are going to be somewhat costly, but at the same time infinitely flexible. Because keep in mind, with this example, okay, you have a creature, a counter, an enchantment in the draw card. Okay, big who cares? And especially if you can only cast 1 spell per, or 4 spells per day, it's really kind of to your detriment to be carrying the draw card unless you really, really need it. But let's not forget that your planeswalkers are going to get really, really strong too. Eventually, you'll be casting 60 cards a day, or 60 spells a day, and you'll have 40 spells that you know at level 20. At that point, sacrificing 2 spell slots isn't really a big deal, and not to mention that you could pretty much just have one of everything anyway. In fact, you have multiples. If you have a deck of 40, a spell deck of 40, and you can cast 60 per day, that is enough for 1 of everything, plus 2 of half of them. So you should be able to prepare everything quite easily. And I think this will work. I think this will work really well. I don't think this is going to be as easily exploitable as it seems. Because if you choose to exploit it this way, it's going to Okay, actually, PC Unicorn, you just brought up a really good point. PC Unicorn says, the thing about draw is that it's supposed to be random, and then you have tutors for search. Okay, I wasn't aware that tutor was a keyword. But that is a really good point. That is a really, really good point. Draw is random. Okay. Then let's work with that. Let's work with that. So, okay. It's still going to be this. Okay, add a prepared spell. All right, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. That was a really good point. Add a prepared spell. Roll 1d x, where x is the number of spells you know. Add that spell. Do not gain +1 spell per day. Okay, how about that instead? So if we come back to our example here in Artifacts, if we go ahead and just number these, 1, 2, 3, and 4, it means that if we did use the draw card, we would then have to roll 1d4. And so you use the draw card, you roll 1d4, and we can do that. We can do that right here. So we roll 1d4, and we got a 2. And guess what? We got the counterspell that we wanted anyway. But it was random. There was a 75% chance that we didn't get it. Now, I actually really like this. I think this is really good. I think this is really, really good. I wonder, draw a card, sacrifice a card, discard. We're gonna go with, draw. Let's see. The card draw is a regular part of the draw step. It's also a mechanic that may lead to card advantage. Mechanics, keyword abilities, keyword actions. Keyword actions, I think, is what we're looking at, right? I mean, yes, no, maybe. Like, draw, sacrifice, these things aren't really in here. Well, there's discard. I just don't see draw. Maybe they felt they didn't need to draw it. Or they didn't need to actually define draw because it should be just so very easy. I mean, it's draw a card. Okay, so search is actually in here. So you said that it's not official keyword, but colloquially came out from cards like the Diabolic Tutor. But that's fair. Instead, though, we do have search. Search is a keyword action. It was introduced in the Demonic Tutor in Alpha. So you got that. Whole lot of rules attached to it. And none of them, I think, are just like a general example. So, like right here, to search for a card in a zone, look at all the cards in that zone, even if it's a hidden zone, to find a card that matches the given description. I mean, it's search. But I think we can use this to our advantage. Come over here to the keywords. We'll just go ahead and add search. So add a prepared spell. It must be a spell you know. It does not have, or it does not need to be a spell you have prepared. Do not gain +1 spell per day. All right, so there we go. We have the differentiation between draw and search. Perfect. I like it. So that should take care of the blood issue. Okay, and before I go any further, I have to remember to plug the Discord and everything. So, if you're enjoying this and you want to see more of it, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into either Pathfinder or into Magic the Gathering, share this video with them, because, like, we're having fun here. This is fascinating. If you like what we're doing here, don't forget to leave a like on the stream. If you want to leave a comment down below, you can do that too. But if you're going to go ahead and go through the effort to leave a comment down below, might I suggest, go to the description. There is a link to the Discord. It's an open Discord for right now. Join the Discord. There you can leave whatever comments you want, and we can reply in real time. And if you want to play with us any of the games that I am doing, you have to go to the Discord. You have to go to the Behind the Screen channel. Let me know what your availability is, what game you want to play, and as soon as I have enough players for it, we will start that game. So, I look forward to seeing you there, and now we'll get back to this. PC Unicorn says, draw will be defined in steps, I think. Untap, upkeep, draw, main 1, combat, main 2, end. Oh, but you forgot all those other different, you know, like second main combat or third main phase that some cards let you have. You know, the kind of decks that never let you actually have a turn. I don't think there's too many decks that can actually do a turn 1 victory in Magic the Gathering. I think it's pretty well balanced against that. I know it's possible. I have heard of it being done. But I do think that it's really, really super rare. Just because it would rely on the perfect deck and the perfect hand to actually make it happen. But I mean, it has happened. We know it's happened. It's been documented. Alright, I'm going to delete that because we don't need that. Okay, next up, clues. So, introduced in Shadows over Innistrad, it's a pay 2, sacrifice this artifact, draw a card. Okay, so pay 2, we understand that. Sacrifice this artifact, we got that. Draw a card. Now, interestingly, we just did draw a card. So we know what drawing is going to do for us. But what about sacrificing? Now, sacrificing generally just means destroy it, but it has to be yours. So, sacrificing often simply shortened to sack as a keyword action. It means to move a permanent that you control to its owner's graveyard. So, now interestingly, this is where we have to go through and define a couple of things, like graveyard. What is graveyard? Before, when we were discussing this, we had defined a graveyard as being the inverse of your spells per day. Because there's not a single stack of things that you've done. However, there needs to be some kind of record of what you have done. So, like, graveyard. Let's just look at this. The graveyard is considered a zone, which makes sense. It's on the table. It's a place where you put things. That makes sense. Anything that is discarded, that's where sorceries and instants go when they resolve, where permanents go when they've been sacrificed, destroyed, or put into graveyard due to state-based effects. Okay. So, let's go ahead and just define that right now. Graveyard. Okay. So the graveyard is going to be the inverse of spells per day. Every spell cast grows the graveyard. Okay, now, interestingly, one of the things that is going to be a little bit weird is that sometimes there are spells that are referred to specific graveyard orders, and I don't know how we're going to handle that. It may simply be one of those things where we have to manage at the table. At low levels, if all you know is like 2 spells, like you're a level 1 Planeswalker, it's not going to be a huge deal. It's going to be like, huh, what was the last spell you played? Oh, it was a Raging Goblin? Okay, then that's what you have in your graveyard. When you're getting up into, 10, 20, 30 spells per day, that could be a bit harder. PC Corn says, I still think it should be literally the current battlefield so that echoes have fallen there. Well, interestingly enough, that's also going to be true. PC Corn also says, even real, which would let you set up zones that favor graveyard shenanigans. Okay, well, it's hard. Because, see, here's the thing. If we do that, then what happens to your graveyard when you walk away? Does it suddenly make anything that returns something from your graveyard useless because you're not in the graveyard anymore? And furthermore, how does that factor into non-physical things like spells or enchantments? Because you can absolutely return those from the graveyard too. Because I do like the idea of treating the battlefield like the graveyard. As a matter of fact, that is one of the first things that I had talked about when we were doing creatures. And first discussing how these were going to work. Obviously, if you have a goblin out there and it gets cut down, and you cast Revive on it, or Regenerate, it's going to get back up right where it was. Which is super cool. I like that. But again, it doesn't cover all of the instances. And PC Unicorn says, yes, just like a new game, shuffle the deck and start over. But that's not walking away from the battlefield. That's a new day. Every new day is essentially a new game. Because once per day, you will have to sit down and prepare the spells after resting. So every new day is the new game, and the game technically isn't over until the day ends. There's no do-overs in the physical world. So I do think that the graveyard is going to be something that's going to kind of travel with you. And this is going to be okay, because again, they are just echoes, and they're not really going to be bound too much by things like distance. So if you had a goblin and it was dead and you left and you still had a regenerate card, it could allow you to just simply play the regenerate card, and not only is the goblin completely restored, but it's also brought to you. Because why not? Why couldn't it be? I don't know. We may have to cover that when we get into things like regenerate or revive or anything like that. Okay. So sacrifice. So for sacrifice, this is going to be, it says to move a permanent you control into its graveyard. I'm going to go ahead and just say this is going to be kill, destroy, or otherwise end any permanent you control. Actually, I'm not going to put any on there. Just end permanent you control. There we go. PC North says, consider reanimate when you're in a crypt dungeon. Why couldn't you reanimate one of the corpses? Well, that's a complicated question. For starters, It depends on what kind of reanimation you're talking about. So when it comes to like actual resurrection spells, like Raise Dead, there are time limits on that. You can only cast Raise Dead on somebody who's been dead a certain amount of time. Beyond that, you simply can't you can't help them. When it comes to like Animate Dead though, there's no time limit on that, and all you really need is a corpse of some kind. So if you're a cleric and you have the spell Animate Dead and you're in a crypt dungeon, if you're walking along and you just happen to find a skeleton, you can absolutely cast Animate Dead on that skeleton and just do it. Now, would that work on, say, an Echo? Probably not. It's not dead because it's not an undead. It never was. It was just an Echo. But if you're talking about, like, treating regeneration as, say, an Animate Dead spell, and then, of course, we have to factor into consideration what happens if you're no longer around the other creature and you cast it. I could do that. It would... If I don't teleport it directly to... If I don't teleport it directly to the Planeswalker, then it's essentially just a wasted spell. And PC of course says, the spell is literally reanimate. Return creature to the battlefield from the graveyard with a -1, -0 counter. Okay, why couldn't you cast it on a corpse? Okay, so are you talking about casting the spell Reanimate on something that was alive at one point in time? Like a real body. This is something that I've actually kind of been struggling with. How much influence do we want to give these spells? Do we want our planeswalkers to be able to cast spells on other people? Because we have to answer that right now. If you're talking about casting Reanimate on a skeleton in a crypt, then why can I not cast, say, Colossal Growth on an orphan in town? Okay? Because, I mean, this sounds silly, but we have to accept that these things can happen now. If I go ahead and allow people to cast Reanimate on real corpses, I have to accept that you can cast this. So Colossal Growth costs 1+ green, and it has a kicker on it. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. If it was kicked, instead the creature gets a +4/+4 and gains trample until end of turn. This is not the card that I was expecting. What was the one that I wanted? Gargantuan Growth? I don't know. Either way, like I said, can we cast this on the local orphans? Can my planeswalker walk by the orphanage and just say, huh, there's red and green mana here. I'm going to cast Colossal Growth on that orphan. And so orphans are children, and as such, they're going to be small. But if I cast Colossal Growth on an orphan and it gets +4/+4, well, if we come back here to our creature thing, I'm probably not going to turn them colossal, but a +4/+4 would be a +8, which means that it would put them into the medium category. So if I cast Colossal Growth on the local orphans, do they suddenly turn into a full-grown adult? For as long as the spell lasts? I'm not sure if I want to go that way, because when, because when we're looking at these spells, we have to think of all of the different implications of them. And hold on. Did I grab the wrong... I know I grabbed the wrong one. Where was it, though? Exponential growth, giant growth. PC War says colossal growth, but I just did colossal growth. They spelled it differently, though. Yeah, because there's that one. I'm not seeing it. There's a lot of growth cards in here, though. Well, PC War says the definition of adult is age, not strength. My point is, though, that do we allow ourselves to turn the orphan into something that is adult-sized? I mean, what are the ethics here? And granted, I realize that when we're talking about ethics in something like Magic the Gathering, or, well, not Magic, maybe Magic the Gathering, but in like Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons or things like that, talk about ethics here is a little bit like talking about ethics in RimWorld. You don't. If you didn't want war crimes, you wouldn't have allowed war crimes. Okay? You wouldn't have made it an open game, you would have made it a board game. Oh, and PC Horse says it's colossalification. Colossalification? I know I spelled that wrong. There it is, colossification. Found it. There's the kitty. Okay, so colossification, that's the card that I was looking for. It costs 5 plus 7, so you would have to be a level 7 planeswalker to even cast this card. However, it does give the enchanted creature a plus 20/+20. However, I don't think this is actually allowed because I think this is oh dear God, no. It is actually legal. It's part of the Bloomborough set. Oh no! It's legal! Oh dear God. Uh-oh. That's not gonna be good for me. At least it's not common. It's rare, so it's not going to be available to everybody. But if somebody goes looking for this... Anyway. Colossification. Plus 20/+20. Again. Anything plus 20 or 21 plus, that's power and toughness, that turns it into a colossal creature. So I have to go back to the orphans because we have to make the point as absolutely as depraved as possible here. You cast it on an orphan. And now the orphan is, well, let's see. That's 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, 4 square, 5 square. The orphan now occupies a 25-foot cube. Okay? It's 25 cubes tall. And each cube is 5 feet, so 25 times 5, your orphan is now 125 feet tall. But then again, it also started off as a small creature, so maybe we can have that. Fine. Half of 125 is going to be 50 plus 24, 74 feet tall. 74-foot tall orphan. If we can use reanimate on actual bodies, we can do this. Do we want to allow this? Is the question, because if we don't, then we can't allow the other one either. We have to be even-handed in our rules. And I just don't know. Like, I want to. I'm just really, really afraid of what people are going to do with it if I allow it. And for good reason. Never trust people. So, I don't know. As far as returning the actual player's graveyard, though, I think that's going to be more of an abstract thing that will simply travel with you throughout the day. And I think that'll actually work because there's no cards, as far as I know of, that take place, like, what's the word that I want here? There's no settings that are in Magic the Gathering that really take place inside of a graveyard, as far as I know. I think we can keep this one abstract. I think we can. And PC Unicorn says in a giant booming voice, "Are you my mommy?" And then all you hear is just the trembling ground and the echoing footsteps as the child goes running through the city square. Again, I can allow the war crimes, but I'm really relying on you not to make them war crimes. Okay. Moving down. Contraptions, no. Equipment. I think I may have to wait on equipment because that's gonna be a whole thing on its own. PC Horn says, like I said, non-echoes will have a will save or even a B-life requirement. Oh, belief requirement, I think is what you're trying to say. For a willing save. No, that is absolutely true. That is true. Anybody who has a spell cast on them will get a will save, and we already covered this. If I go back to spells, we covered these, and we said that for damaging spells, the number of dice is going to be the curative mana cost, size of dice, the damage listed. The reflex save, if applicable, will be 10 plus the spell level plus the charisma modifier. But that is not just for the reflex save, and it's not here. I swear I wrote it down somewhere. But this same equation right here, 10 plus the spell level plus charisma modifier, that will also apply to any fortitude saves or will saves. So if you're trying to enchant somebody, or you even cast like a mass enchantment, everybody in the area will get the chance to resist whatever that is. So, I mean, no big deal there. And that means that yes, if you wanted to cast Colossification on the orphan, technically the orphan also gets a will save. I don't know what child would want to save against that, but technically they get one. And so the orphan would get a will save. That would be 10 plus the spell's level. Or in this case, spell level, it would be essentially equivalent to their converted mana cost. So, for Colossification, that's 7. So 17 plus your charisma modifier, which should be your highest stat. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume it's a +4 modifier, which would make it a will save DC 21. I don't think the orphan is going to make that save even if they wanted to. Alright, so, now that we got that done, like I said, equipment is going to be kind of its own thing, so we're going to skip that one. Food. Food we already talked about. Now, because all food tokens are the same, I can just write a standard rule for this one. For food, this is simply going to be... do you have to pay for that one? Pay 2 and tap. So... 2, tap, and heal. 2d3 hit points. PC of course says, well, consider if it's random and they don't know it's coming, they sense something being cast and they resist the change. Yes, and if you want an example of that, and actually that's something I should really go into, is ranges, because I don't think that I covered range yet. If you were to cast, say, an enchantment, and I can't think of an enchantment off the top of my head that would really fall into this category, but an enchantment that would affect everybody. And what if the enchantment is, I don't know, all creatures... Well, no, because that wouldn't work. If it says all creatures, it's specifically targeting echoes. It wouldn't affect regular people. That's... Oh, actually, that's really interesting. I had forgotten about that rule. Aha! Okay. I forgot we already have this kind of solved. Enchant creature. Okay, it's right there. Enchant creature. Orphans aren't creatures. Only echoes are creatures. I forgot that I made that rule a long time ago. And I only just remembered. So, can't you cast Reanimate on a corpse? Does it say creature in it? If it says creature, it can only target echoes. And that was the way that we got around that. However, if we do that, then it also takes away... That's not what I wanted. Here we go. Shock. Okay. Shock says that it deals 2 damage to any target. Shock does not say that it specifically targets creatures, and so this can be used against anybody. You can use it against echoes. You can use it against other NPCs. You can use it against buildings. You can use it against anything. So, Shock deals 2 damage to any target. I wonder... Lava Axe. Lava Axe deals 5 damage to target player or planeswalker. Since the player is a planeswalker, this means that this can only target, I guess, people. It's not actually usable against other echoes. So I suppose when we're looking at this, anything that says target player could be, or could target NPCs. And so that should be good, which means that we would then have to look at things that enchant a player. And I have no idea how I would do that. How about the advanced search? Card super type? No. Card type. Here we go. Enchantment. Card subtype. No, we're not going to do that. How about text? Is there a text field? Rarity, rules text. Here we go. Player. So, rules text, I'm looking for an enchant player. If I can find that. Maybe? Today? I don't like this new website of yours, guys. Are you doing anything? Here we go. Rumbling Aftershocks. Whenever you cast a kicked spell, you may have it deal damage to target creature or player. No, that's not what I want. And Spell Shock. Whenever a player casts spell. No, that's not what I wanted either. Okay, I can't think of an enchantment that affects the player right now. But that would be considered, something that you could cast it and it might affect the other NPCs, in which case then they would be entitled to some kind of will save. Now, interestingly, when we were doing the Warhammer 40k module, we did cover large-scale enchantments like that when we were talking about Psychers. And we developed a system for that. It was a D100 system. How do you know whether something will work or not when you're dealing with populations at scale? Instead of rolling a will save for all of them, we would roll a percentage of the population. So it would be 1d100 minus, or I guess, no, 1d100 plus the DC of the enchantment being cast. So in this case, the spell that we're looking at is 10 plus the spell level plus the charisma modifier. We'll knock off the 10 because that's just a baseline. And we'll take the spell level, which let's just pick a random number. We'll call it 6. A level 6 enchantment plus your charisma modifier. That's going to be, a plus 4, probably. So it would be 1d100 plus 10. And that would give you the percentage of the population, or at least within the radius of your spell, that is affected by it. Whatever that spell happens to do. And so that would allow you to affect actual NPCs. But for the large majority of spells, most of them say target creature, and so that kind of solves a lot of our issues for us. People aren't creatures, people are players or planeswalkers. And I mean, like I said, the implications of turning every NPC into a creature is kind of wrong, I think. I don't know, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the chat what you think about treating NPCs as creatures, subject to all the same rules. Because right now we're talking about things like colossification on the neighborhood orphan. But what about this? Where is it? There it is. Terror. This is like one of the pinnacles of black cards, okay? This is a staple in just so many decks. This is Terror. Terror costs 1 and black. It's super cheap. You'll get this spell level 2. It says, destroy non-artifact, non-black creature. It can't be regenerated. Very simple. This has been a staple of black decks going back to Alpha. And so, can you cast this on people? Like, if you're a level 20 planeswalker, can you just walk into town and cast 10 of these every 6 seconds? I mean, if you prepared 60 terror spells, could you walk into town and just kill 60 people? Is that something that we want? Because I'm not sure if we want that. Keep in mind that if you can do it to them, they can do it to you too. What if there was another planeswalker out there who had the spell Terror and they could simply use it against you? If we go by the standard for resisting spells, that would be 10 plus the level of the spell. It costs 2 to play, so it's level 2 spell. Plus their charisma modifier, which is going to be anywhere from 0 to 4. But if we just take it at the highest end, that's a DC 16 or be destroyed. And I don't think I like that. I don't think I like that for my bad guys, and I don't think I like that for my players either. Because that just seems like a really, really easy way to get yourself just killed. So perhaps we do limit these things to just being targeted towards echoes. Even if it does mean that it severely limits our spells and what they can do, it preserves so much more. So I think I gotta kind of draw the line there. Okay. Fortifications then. That's going to be another to be determined, because fortification is going to be its own thing. Gold and treasures. So these are really simple. Just tap it, sacrifice artifact, add 1 mana of any color. The function of this, I think, is going to be very simple. It's just add 1 mana of any color. So it's something that if you were in an area and you needed just a little bit more mana of one color, you could do it. I don't think I need to write down rules for this because it's pretty self-explanatory. The only thing that I think I need to add is just tapping. What is tapping? And I think that I need to differentiate this, because for a creature, this is going to be inflict daze on the target creature. For an artifact, how are we going to define this for an artifact? What does it mean to be tapped? It means that it can't be used again. You can't really daze an artifact. However, we might be able to do something similar. Game mastering conditions. Bleeding, blinded, broken. Here we go. So, it says here, items that have taken damage in excess of half of their hit points against the broken condition mean they are less effective with their designated task. The broken condition has the following effects depending on the item. If it is a weapon, attacks made with this weapon suffer a -2 penalty in attack and damage rolls. Such weapons only score a critical hit on a natural 20 and only deal ×2 damage on a confirmed critical hit. If it's a suit of armor or shield, the bonus it grants to AC is halved, rounding down. Broken armor also doubles its armor check penalty on skills. If the item is a tool needed for a skill, any skill check made with that takes a -2 penalty. If it is a wand or staff, it uses twice as many charges when used. If it does not fit any of these categories, the broken condition has no effect on its use. Items with a broken condition, regardless of the type, are worth 75% of the normal value. Okay. So, maybe inflicting broken on them isn't exactly the way to go. Maybe we don't do that then. Maybe we just make it very simple. Artifact is unusable until next turn. I mean, make it very simple, I guess. In this case, though, obviously, we don't have to worry about that too much because we're going to be sacrificing it right after. Because we tap the treasure token, we sacrifice it, and then we can add 1 mana of any color. So, great. And the same thing's going to be true up here. Food. We pay 2, we tap it, and then we sacrifice it. Pretty simple. Alright, next is going to be Incubator. That's going to be a little bit more involved. We'll have to wait until next time for that one, I think. So, we'll come down here to Map. Map is... Pay 1, tap, sacrifice this artifact, target creature you control explores. Activate only as a sorcery. Okay. Well, what does that mean again? Reveal the top card of your library. Put that card into your hand if it's a land. Otherwise, put a 1/1 counter on the creature. Then put the card back or put it onto your graveyard. Well, golly gee, isn't that just a complicated thing? Did we do explore? I don't think we did. What is this? This is category maps. Wait, here we go. Explore. It is a keyword action. So then it should probably be in here, right? Sacrifice. These are all keyword actions. And is it? I'll go down to the bottom and come up. Manifest Dread, Forge, Time Travel, Convert. There it is. Explore. Right there. Okay. Explore. Alright. So, there's a couple of things that are going on here because of the way this is written. So first things first, reveal the top card of your library. Well, what the hell does that mean? I suppose that reveal is going to be very similar to drawing, in that it's going to be completely random. Well, when we handled the random, we just rolled 1d, whatever your library size is. So it's going to be roll 1dx, where x is the number of spells you know. Now what? Okay. And put that card into your hand if it's a land. Well, we don't have lands to play. Which I guess means that for Explore, obviously we don't have lands to play, which means that we have to completely ignore this part, and we have to jump down to this one. Put a 1/1 counter on this creature, and then put the card back on the top of your, or on top or into your graveyard. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We don't need to reveal anything because if it's a land, well, we can't play lands. And yeah, there's nothing to put back because we're not rolling that anymore. So it's literally just going to be target, or let's see, no. Exploring creature gains +1 strength, +1 constitution. And that's how we're going to have to do that. So with the map, sacrifice this artifact, target creature you control explores. which is super simple. And since we just defined what exploring is, there you go. While I'm thinking about this, though, reveal. So this is going to very simply be roll 1d x, where x is the number of spells you know. So there we go. Now we've got the thing for reveal. And after that is the treasure token, which we just did, I think. No. After that is the power stone. But the power stone here is just tap and add 1 regular mana. This mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. Super simple. We already know what we're doing here. We don't need to add anything for that. And after that is just vehicles. And vehicles are going to be kind of tough on their own because we already kind of covered vehicles. We covered them a little bit when we did the keyword abilities. Should be down here towards the bottom, I think. Maybe? Maybe it was, maybe it's not. No, we covered that under crew. Okay, so yeah, we do need to go through everything about vehicles still. So I think we'll save that for next time. So we're just gonna say done, done, not done, done, not done, done, done. And that leaves us with 4 things left. So we got to do the equipment, fortifications, incubators, and vehicles. And that's not a bad place to be. So we know what we're doing next time, because I am out of time for today. So, I like it. I like what we did today. We finished off the whole map thing, and we now know what's going to happen to our cities depending on what color of mana is dominant there. And most urban centers are not dominant. They don't have a primary color, so most of the time that won't really affect anything. In order for a city to have a dominant color, it's going to have to be affected by a planeswalker specifically. But anyway, we did that. We got a good start on our artifacts. I have a good feeling about this. I'm looking forward to it next time. So, if you want to see that, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into either Pathfinder or Magic the Gathering, then share this with them, because like the more insight that I have, the better I can do this. So I'll take all the help I can get. If you're enjoying what we're doing here, though, leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below. If you're going to leave a comment down below, though, you may as well just go ahead and join the Discord, because we're over there, we're waiting. Come join us on the Discord where you can leave more messages. If you want to play with us, though, you're going to have to join us there, because that's where we play the games. You'll go to the Behind the Screen channel. Let me know what game you want to play and what your availability is, and once I've got enough people, we'll play. So, I thank you all for coming out today. It was good seeing you here. I hope to see more people in the Discord soon, because I want to get more games going. So do all of that for me, and I will see you back here next time for Magic the Gathering. And until then, take care.